Imagine a world cloaked in perpetual twilight. The air, thick with soot and ash, obscures the sun, casting an eerie, chilling shadow across the planet. This is not a scene from a science fiction movie, it's the haunting reality of a nuclear winter. A nuclear winter is a catastrophic environmental phenomenon predicted to occur in the aftermath of a nuclear war. The very air we breathe would become a toxic cocktail of smoke and radioactive fallout. Temperatures would plummet, plunging the Earth into a prolonged period of darkness and freezing cold. Crops would wither and die, leading to widespread famine. Water sources would become contaminated, spreading disease and death. The delicate balance of life, painstakingly woven over millennia, would unravel. The fate of humanity and indeed all life on Earth hangs in the balance. Nuclear winter is a hypothetical climatic phenomenon predicted to occur following a large-scale nuclear war. It is not a literal winter but rather a prolonged period of global cooling and darkness triggered by the massive injection of soot and dust into the stratosphere. When a nuclear weapon detonates, it creates a massive fireball that vaporizes everything in its immediate vicinity. This fireball rises rapidly, carrying millions of tons of dust, debris, and soot high into the atmosphere. The stratosphere, unlike the lower atmosphere, lacks rain clouds that would normally wash out such particles. Trapped in this atmospheric layer, the soot and dust would spread around the globe, forming a dense blanket that would effectively block sunlight from reaching the Earth's surface. This research played a significant role in raising awareness about the dangers of nuclear war and contributed to the international efforts towards nuclear disarmament. The horrors of a nuclear winter wouldn't end with the initial blasts. The real devastation would begin in the aftermath, unfolding as a slow, agonizing death knell for our planet and its inhabitants. Picture this. Massive firestorms raging across continents ignited by the intense heat of nuclear explosions. These infernos would engulf entire cities, forests, and grasslands, releasing billions of tons of smoke and soot into the atmosphere. The smoke, laden with toxic chemicals and radioactive particles, would rise high into the sky, joining the dust and debris already swirling in the stratosphere. Meanwhile, on the ground, the initial blast wave would pulverize buildings, infrastructure, and everything in its path. The shock wave would travel for hundreds of miles, flattening forests, triggering landslides, and unleashing tsunamis that would inundate coastal regions. The sun, our life-giving star, would be all but extinguished, hidden behind a thick veil of nuclear smog. The most immediate and dramatic effect of a nuclear winter would be the drastic drop in global temperatures. The thick blanket of soot and dust in the stratosphere would act like a giant sunshade, reflecting sunlight back into space and preventing it from reaching the Earth's surface. Global temperatures are expected to plummet by several degrees Celsius within a matter of weeks, plunging the planet into a state of artificial winter. The effects would be felt across the globe, from the equator to the poles. The altered atmospheric conditions would disrupt global weather patterns, leading to unpredictable and extreme weather events. Rainfall would decrease dramatically in many regions, leading to widespread droughts. Hurricanes and cyclones, fueled by the temperature differential between the oceans and the cooled atmosphere, would become more frequent and intense. The combination of extreme cold, drought, and violent storms would wreak havoc on ecosystems around the world. The global food supply, already strained by a growing population and environmental challenges, would be decimated in the aftermath of a nuclear war. The combination of darkness, cold, and radioactive fallout would be a death knell for agriculture, leading to widespread crop failures and famine on a scale never before witnessed. Photosynthesis, the process by which plants convert sunlight into energy, would grind to a halt. Crops would wither and die in the fields, their growth stunted by the lack of sunlight and the chilling temperatures. The once fertile fields that sustain us would transform into barren wastelands. Pollinators such as bees and butterflies rely on sunlight for navigation and would be unable to pollinate crops. The intricate web of life that sustains our food chain would unravel, leading to a cascading collapse of ecosystems. The struggle for survival would pit neighbor against neighbor, as desperation and hunger gripped the world. The aftermath of a nuclear war wouldn't just be a human tragedy, it would be an ecological catastrophe of unimaginable proportions. The planet would face a mass extinction event, the sixth in Earth's history, wiping out countless species and pushing entire ecosystems to the brink of collapse. The sudden and drastic changes in climate, coupled with the widespread radioactive contamination, would create an environment hostile to most forms of life. Plants and animals, already stressed by habitat loss and climate change, would be ill-equipped to cope with the added burden of nuclear winter. Marine ecosystems, which cover over 70% of the Earth's surface, would be equally devastated. The reduced sunlight would disrupt the delicate balance of phytoplankton, the base of the marine food chain. As phytoplankton populations collapsed, so too would the populations of fish, whales, and other marine creatures that depend on them for survival. The loss of biodiversity would have catastrophic consequences for the planet's ability to recover from the nuclear apocalypse. In the face of such unimaginable devastation, what hope would humanity have? The immediate aftermath of a nuclear war would be a fight for survival, a desperate struggle to secure basic necessities like food, water, and shelter. The first priority for survivors would be to find shelter from the radioactive fallout. Underground bunkers, basements, and other enclosed spaces would offer the best protection from the deadly radiation that would linger in the atmosphere for weeks, if not months. Securing clean water and food would be paramount. Water sources would likely be contaminated by fallout, making purification a matter of life and death. Food would be scarce, requiring survivors to rely on whatever supplies they had stockpiled or could scavenge from the ruins. Communication and cooperation would be vital in the post-apocalyptic world. In a world scarred by nuclear winter, finding safe haven would be paramount. The ideal shelters would need to provide protection from both the harsh environmental conditions and the lingering threat of radiation. Underground bunkers, long a staple of doomsday preppers, would offer the most effective protection from radiation and extreme weather. These subterranean structures, built with thick concrete walls and equipped with air filtration systems, could shield survivors from the harshest conditions above ground. Existing underground infrastructure such as subway tunnels, mines, and caves could also provide refuge, although they would require modifications to become habitable. Sealing off sections, improving ventilation, and establishing sanitation systems would be essential for transforming these spaces into livable shelters. Remote locations, far from the likely targets of nuclear strikes, would offer a degree of isolation and safety. Surviving the initial onslaught of nuclear winter would be just the first hurdle. The real challenge would lie in rebuilding civilization from the ashes, adapting to a world forever altered by the catastrophic events. Re-establishing agriculture would be paramount. Hydroponics, a method of growing plants without soil, and vertical farming, which maximizes space by growing crops in vertically stacked layers, could offer viable alternatives. Developing alternative energy sources would be essential. With traditional power grids destroyed and fossil fuels scarce, survivors would need to rely on renewable energy sources like solar, wind, and hydropower. Preserving knowledge and skills would be vital for rebuilding civilization. Passing on skills like farming, medicine, engineering, and construction to future generations would be essential for rebuilding a functioning society. The horrors of a nuclear winter are not inevitable. Preventing such a catastrophe is not a matter of technological prowess, but rather a test of our collective will, our ability to recognize our shared humanity and choose diplomacy over destruction. Strengthening international treaties and institutions that aim to reduce and eventually eliminate nuclear weapons is paramount. The Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, NPT, which aims to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and promote disarmament, is a crucial cornerstone of these efforts. Promoting dialogue and diplomacy between nuclear-armed states is essential. Building trust, addressing grievances, and finding common ground are crucial for reducing tensions and preventing misunderstandings that could escalate into conflict. Investing in education and raising public awareness about the catastrophic consequences of nuclear war is crucial. The future may seem bleak when contemplating the potential horrors of a nuclear winter, but despair is not an option. We have the power and the responsibility to choose a different path, to steer humanity away from the brink of self-destruction. The choice is ours. Succumb to fear and resignation, accepting the possibility of a nuclear apocalypse, or embrace hope and work tirelessly to prevent it. The pursuit of peace is not a naive ideal but a necessary imperative, a matter of collective survival. Let us choose hope over despair, diplomacy over destruction, and cooperation over conflict. The future of humanity, and indeed all life on Earth, hangs in the balance.